Mystery is made possible by a grant from Mobile Corporation.
Good evening. I'm Vincent Price. Welcome again to Mystery. Tonight's story is a two-part drama called Dying Day. Anthony Skipling, who we'll meet in the first episode tonight, is a harmless little fellow who knows that he is going to die by unnatural causes soon. He even knows the date, but he doesn't know why. Now, for a reclusive, shy man, a man like Skipling, who is almost compulsively a creature of mundane habits, this is an extremely unsettling situation to be in. He's surrounded by strange coincidences and clues, but no one, not even the police, will believe him. In tonight's drama, we'll watch as Anthony Skipling starts to lose his grip. The camera zooms to a close-up as he looks in the mirror and wonders aloud, "Am I going mad?" Now, it takes a versatile actor to handle such a demanding role. And tonight's mystery has one of England's most exciting talents as its star, Ian McKellen. One critic wrote, just a minute now, here it is. McKellen acts from the head and the lungs, and he has a marvelous, sour, and pliable face. Perfect casting for tonight's anti-hero. You may have watched McKellen earlier this season on PBS in a one-man show called Acting Shakespeare. Probably he's best known in this country for his Tony Award-winning performance as the man who killed Mozart in the Broadway hit Amadeus. You know, that role marked his 20th anniversary as a professional actor. But fans of PBS classic theater of a few seasons ago will vividly remember McKellen in the title role of Marlowe's Edward II. That was his American television debut. And despite his more recent success, Shakespeare remains his first love. Several times, McKellen has won England's major acting awards. In 1977, in the title role of a London production of Shakespeare's The Scottish play, McKellen earned his third consecutive Society of West End Theatre Award. Now, in England, McKellen is one of a group of actors who are always performing Shakespeare or Marlowe with a little bit of Ibsen and Chekhov. So usually he's dressed in a period costume. But after 5 years of the Royal Shakespeare Company in England, McKellen made a vow to do anything that was not what people expected him to do. But to break the routine and to avoid being typecast, the 43-year-old actor made a film called Priest of Love, based on the D.H. Lawrence story. He toured Europe in a one-man show, and he made tonight's mystery thriller. McKellen said he sees television as a basically untapped area of challenge for the versatile actor. He recently speculated that the problem of acting for television is very much like working on film, to see what the eyelids reveal, what the twitch of a finger is showing, to reach a level of reality that is immensely suited to the cinema rather than the theater. In tonight's drama, we have a close view of Anthony Skipling. And he's sure of one thing. He's going to be murdered on February 28th. But why him? And why tell him? Well, we open with Skipling being questioned by the Bucklebury police. He be telling his story in flashback in this first of two parts called Mr. Skipling is Sentenced to Death. Skipling's search for clues has led him to a neighboring pub and into the path of his estranged wife, Doris. Join us next week for the conclusion of Dying Day. For Mystery, I'm Vincent Price. Good night. Oh, good evening. I'm Vincent Price. Welcome to Gory Mansion. We've been tidying up a bit since last week, getting things in order for tonight's conclusion of Dying Day. Well, this evening, we'll find out what's ahead for our friend Tony Skipling, a nervous sort of chap who's scheduled to die in 8 days. Now, this is a psychological thriller. There's no doubt about that. And Ian McKellen is a perfect choice for the role of Tony Skipling. In many classic mysteries, attention is riveted on a thing, a piece of jewelry, a will, perhaps a murder weapon. The intrigue surrounds the object and who has it, who lost it, and who is about to find it. But in Dying Day, attention is focused on the characters and the relationships that exist and overlap among them. Their behavior is more important than the crime itself. This is the hallmark of a psychological thriller. Although classic mysteries feature a multitude of relatives and chance acquaintances, everyone's always related, if not by birth and by happenstance, these are mere teacup confidences compared to the personal involvements and shared histories that exist in a psychological thriller. Now, watch how the execution of the crime is built on the predictability of human action and reaction. Well, now, this is the story of a man of methodical habits, precise routines, and obsessive attention to detail. Last week on Mystery, we learned that Skipling, a resident of Bucklebury, commutes to his job in London every day where he works in an advertising agency. He is separated but not divorced from his wife, Doris. On the train from London one day, he chats with a man who says that he's a naturalist and who insists on playing audio tapes for Skipling that he's recorded of various sounds made by creatures, including the human species, which he's taped recently in a saloon bar. When the naturalist suddenly jumps off the train at his stop and leaves one of the tapes behind, Skipling is confused but neat as a pin, and he puts the tape in his briefcase and takes it home. Well, in his flat that night, he plays the tapes and is surprised to hear his own name mentioned. Over the babble of conversation in the pub, Skipling hears two voices plotting his murder for February 28th. Skipling goes to the police and plays the tape for them. The incriminating dialogue is no longer on the tape. The police dismiss his claim that the tape has been wiped out and advise him to see a doctor. Well aware that the police consider him paranoid, Skipling goes to a local organization of Samaritans that he once contacted after his separation from his wife, Doris. His former befriender, a young woman named Susie, has left the organization, but she hears of his dilemma and she offers to help. On his usual commute the next night, Skipling sees the naturalist once again, this time outside the train window. His glasses are shattered, his eyes are bloodied. a horrible, death-like countenance as he falls away from the window. In his fright and bewilderment, and yet his obsessive penchant for order and thrift, well, I mean, after all, there's a 25-pound fine for pulling the emergency cord while the train's moving. Skipling waits until the next day to report what he saw to the police. When they investigate, no body is found by the railway. Meanwhile, Susie, the befriender, suggests the death threat may have something to do with his house. She urges him to investigate any leads. Skipling, beside himself as the days tick off on the calendar approaching February 28th, and so he decides to follow her advice. Skipling attempts to trace the previous owners of his house, and his search leads him to a local pub where he accidentally runs into his estranged wife, Doris, and her husband's estate manager. As we come in on tonight's story, Skipling and Doris are about to have a chat. What a deliciously cunning crime. Skipling, found unfit to plead, lands in a prison for the criminally insane. Doris, better than anyone, knew Tony's habits to a T. Well, I mean, after all, she'd lived with him. She knew just what it would take to put her first husband over the proverbial edge. Skipling, thinking Mountjoy intended to push him under the train, pushed first. It's a predictable human reaction. Doris, technically innocent of the crime, inherits Mountjoy's fortune. Her only crime was bigamy. And who would ever believe Tony Skipling? Next week on Mystery, we have the pleasure of introducing a truly great sleuth from mystery literature, G.K. Chesterton's Father Brown, a member of the clergy with an uncanny knack for turning detective. I think you'll like this personification of the famous detective of the cloth. Until next week for Mystery, I'm Vincent Price. Good night.
Mystery is made possible by a grant from Mobile Corporation.